Hello, everybody. You're once again listening to Joey Huff on Retrospective Rants. Years ago, when I was a bright young boy, as opposed to a barely functional young man, my parents were quite liberal with the sort of TV and movies I would watch. There were limits, of course, but for the most part, they were fine with me watching things with an amount of violence and maturity, as long as I kept within what few limits they set, of course. So, I didn't watch things like Silence of the Lambs until I was a teenager, but many people don't believe me when I tell them I played video games like Fable, watched shows like Angel, as well as movies like the original producers, which is the best version.
You know, not many people knew it. But the Fuhrer was a terrific dancer.
Before I was even 9. But among all the heroic questing and irreparably depressed vigilantes, it is an elegant and family-driven sitcom that has kept in my memory the longest and holds on to my heart even today. That sitcom is, of course, Frasier.
People of Seattle, listen to me! We are not barbarians! We are not Neanderthals! And we are not French! Do you hear that, you out there?
What started as a spin-off of the classic show Cheers ascended into one of the most lauded comedy shows in U.S. history. I do not say it lightly when I name Frasier as my favorite comedic TV show of all time. It has more heart than Community ever did at its best, more wit than Blackadder, and has far more cultural significance than any of the other sitcoms that were its contemporaries. Yes, that compendium of mediocrity as well. But enough with the comparisons. This episode will go along a little differently than my previous review did. I would be doing the show and those who worked on it a disservice if I tried to summarize all 11 seasons into a single review. So, I will give you the show's basic premise, summarize an episode which I feel perfectly captures the main essence of the show, and then I shall give assessments on what truly makes Frasier work, its characters. To begin with, Kelsey Grammer plays Dr. Frasier Crane.
Listen to yourself, Bob. You follow her to work. You eavesdrop on her calls. You open her mail. The minute you started doing these things, the relationship was over. Thank you for your call.
He has moved to Seattle after his divorce from Dr. Lilith Sternen, who holds primary custody of their son, Frederick. Frasier's taken a job as a radio show host, where he conducts brief therapy sessions with the callers, and is supported by his producer, Roz Doyle, played by Perry Gilpin. She is an industry veteran, and a far more social and pragmatic creature than he is.
If he gets into that club, I should too.
Well, what if I happen to know someone very high up who could probably get you invited to that cocktail party? Mr. Strickland, please. Just tell him it's Roz.
Walter Strickland Jr.?
Senior.
Oh, Roz, how did you ever get to know someone so important?
The less you know, the happier you'll be.
Frasier's usual social activity outside of work consists of dining with Seattle's high society and meeting his brother Niles, who is another psychiatrist and brilliantly played by David Hyde Pierce, for afternoon coffee.
Are you happy?
Exceedingly complex question.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Either you're happy or you're not.
Oh, are you happy?
No, but we're not talking about me.
Theirs is one of the best sibling relationships of any story ever made. No two brothers have ever had more loyalty, love, mutual understanding, and destructively neurotic envy towards each other than Niles and Frasier Crane.
You think he's trying to steal your patients, and you think he's trying to undermine you as a psychiatrist. But you must know what is at the root of this problem.
He is!
And it's established early on that Niles takes a great deal of pride in his profession, so much so that he feels that Frasier is disservicing psychiatry by working via his radio show. But the action of the show truly starts when both brothers discover that their father, Martin Crane, needs a place to stay. Martin, played by John Mahoney, is a decorated police detective who took a bullet to his hip while on duty, and the injury has gotten bad enough that he can't even live on his own anymore for fear of quite literally falling and not getting up.
Let's cut the welcome to Camp Crane speech. We all know why I'm here. Your old man can't be left alone for 10 minutes without falling on his ass, and Frasier got stuck with me. Isn't that right? No!
So Frasier decides to take Martin, as well as Martin's dog Eddie, into his apartment and hires Daphne Moon, played by Jane Leeves, a physical healthcare specialist who also happens to be a latent psychic from Manchester, England.
It's nothing big, just little things I sense about people. I mean, it's not like I can pick the lottery. If I could, I wouldn't be talking to the likes of you two now, would I?
And she's brought in as a live-in support for his father. And yeah, that's the show, or at least how it starts. Most of the action consists of the strained relationship that Niles and Frasier have with their far more down-to-earth and old-fashioned father. Roz also serves as an excellent foil and sometimes mentor to Frasier during office dramas.
What? I mean, come on, you guys were so positive. The expense account thing, the meeting with management at 5.
That meeting was to discuss taking his show national. Don't you know anything that goes on around here?
Apparently not.
And quickly becomes a great friend of the family, especially when she becomes a mother of her own, and sometimes seeks advice from Martin and Frasier, who themselves are parents of varying expertise. Niles even develops an affection for Daphne, whose comparative optimism and bravery serves as a prime catalyst for Niles' own change in character, even as she herself fends off subtle differences of being an Englishwoman in America, as well as her ever-cloying family members. And that is my brief summary of the many dynamics in the show, but let me give you a demonstration instead. There are many good episodes in Frasier, and to be honest, I can't think of any bad episodes, but there are a few that neatly capture its spirit, and the episode that made Frasier a great show for me is the 19th episode of Season 1, Give 'Em the Chair. The episode begins in the KACL radio station, where Frasier gives his show. This is the starting point for most episodes of the series, and in this particular start, Frasier is taking on a guest named Dr. Helmut Brugger, who's written a book about how the more compulsive aspects of a man's sex drive are reinvigorated once they hit a certain age.
Dr. Brugger, guten Tag. I've been an admirer of yours for a long time.
Thank you. I enjoy your show as well.
Really?
Yes, though I do not in most cases agree with your analysis.
It quickly becomes apparent, though, that the Doctor is using himself as proof of this, as the only reason he called into the show was to try and ask out Roz.
Dr. Crane, may I say hello to Roz?
Yes, of course.
Hello, Roz.
Hello, Dr. Brugger.
Yes, your research indicates
That the reproductive imperative is reawakened in later life, when the man is...
You have a very sensuous voice.
Thank you.
Not you, Roz.
And being one for adventurous new experiences, Roz initially shows interest, until Frasier shows Roz Dr. Brugger's cover photo on the book.
Well, that would be very... No, thank you very much.
The photo is not only in an unflattering angle and bad light, but also portrays a not at all distinguished-looking older man, and this is enough to dispel whatever interest Roz might have had. I was also very surprised to discover that not only is Dr. Brugger voiced by someone who looks nothing at all like the photo on the book cover, but he is in fact voiced by Malcolm McDowell. You may recognize him as either the main character of A Clockwork Orange or as that older British guy who features in movies he's much too good for.
Oh, bliss. Bliss and heaven. Oh, it was gorgeousness and gorgeosity made flesh.
To be honest, this quasi-cameo might be one of the more dignified roles I've seen, or rather heard, McDowell in for a while. After that scene, we cut to Frasier's very classy, though not at all gaudy apartment, which features art pieces from different cultures and very fine furniture, all except for one piece, which is the subject of this episode. Daphne is busy cleaning up the place when Niles comes knocking on the door, and despite him asking if Frasier and Martin are at home, it becomes obvious that he chose to visit at this specific time because he knew they wouldn't be at home. The psychiatrist has brought an emerald necklace that he got from Maris, his wife, as a birthday gift, and he asks Daphne to try it on. She does, and it falls down her blouse. And as Daphne is fishing for it and Niles is about to help her, Frasier walks in.
Hello, Niles. Whatever are you doing here?
I bought an emerald necklace for Maris, and I needed someplace to hide it for her.
Emeralds? Well, may I see it?
Not at the moment, no.
Why not?
It's down my blouse.
Daphne decides to extract the necklace in her room, and once she's gone, Martin comes back from the hardware store. He even suggests a few gifts that might work for Maris's birthday.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to get her something. Oh, it's too bad. I just got back from the hardware store. Saw a great-looking ratchet set.
As if there's anything left on her that needs tightening.
Now, the only reason that Frasier and Martin are so mean to Maris is that she herself is a very mean person. But we'll get to that later. The real reason Martin went to the hardware store was to get more duct tape to patch up his recliner, which is the one piece of unfine furniture I mentioned before. The chair is a constant source of frustration to the snobby Frasier and Niles, who decide to try and find a way to get rid of it. They have some difficulty getting to that point, though, until Niles posits the idea that the chair is merely a transitional object, meaning that Dad only needed the chair to bridge his move from his previous stage of life into his new one of living with Frasier. And by this logic, getting rid of Martin's chair and replacing it would not only help Martin, but it is also Frasier's responsibility to do so.
So what you're saying is that if I should, say, go down to the store and buy Dad a new chair, throw this one in the trash heap, I wouldn't be doing it for me, I'd be doing it for him.
Yes. And it would be a nice payback for the day he used your blankie to clean his service revolver.
This is not the first time that Frasier and Niles have found ethical ways of justifying their worse impulses, and it certainly won't be the last. On to the next scene. We see Frasier and Niles hunting for a recliner that will somehow fit both theirs and their dad's tastes, which for them is a very harrowing experience.
Dear God, Frasier, we've stumbled upon hell's waiting room.
They manage to get the store manager's attention, though, and with his help, they are able to find a leather recliner that miraculously fits Frasier's aesthetic. Yet, it's not the chair's look or even comfiness that wins them over.
I never knew a chair could be this satisfying. I never knew that anything could. I want it.
Right, Niles, I'm sure it would fit right in with all of Maris's 18th century antiques.
Well, then I'll just rent it an apartment and visit it on the side.
Yep, the chair has a vibrating function with a very specific sort of comfort. In fact, it has several settings, such as Swedish massage and shiatsu. So they bring it into Frasier's apartment, or rather, Leo, the apartment super, brings it in. And once it's all set up, and Leo adjourns to fix a faucet in the kitchen sink, Daphne gives the chair a go as well.
Hello. Oh, this is enough to make me give up my search for a meaningful relationship.
So yeah, I'd say she enjoys it, if only for a while.
Oh, quick, Dad, get out!
Oh, all right. Just like a man. Now you've had your fun, you don't care where I am.
Then Martin himself walks in and is shown his new chair, though his first reaction is to ask where his old one is, in a rather concerned and fearful manner. He tries his best to refuse the chair politely, but he in fact dislikes the new chair so much that he is the only one to not even enjoy the massage function.
That's disgusting!
So Frasier gives up and asks Leo to go back and bring in the old chair, only for Leo to say that it's been taken by someone. The room then clears out, all except for Frasier and Martin. Martin is of course reasonably angry that Frasier got rid of his chair, but Frasier doesn't give up without a fight. He even spouts the "I did it all for you" line, and then says that he's done his very best to make Martin comfortable. He then proceeds to go full asshole and mock Martin's tastes.
Ever since you got here, all I've tried to do is make you comfortable. I don't even know why I bothered. I mean, everybody knows that Martin Crane doesn't like calfskin. He prefers duct tape. And food crumbs. There we are. And let's have a little dribble of beer while we're at it. Why not? There, that's delightful. Oh, and let's not forget to top it all off, just the slightest bit of dog hair.
And at the end of his tantrum, Frasier tells Martin that he'll get whatever chair the old man wants, and Martin tells him what chair he wants.
I want the chair I was sitting in when I watched Neil Armstrong take his first step on the moon. And when the U.S. hockey team beat the Russians in the '80 Olympics. I want the chair I was sitting in the night you called me to tell me I had a grandson. I want the chair I was in all those nights when your mother used to wake me up with a kiss after I'd fallen asleep in front of the television. You know, I still fall asleep in it. And every once in a while, when I wake up, I still expect your mother to be there ready to lead me off to bed. Oh, never mind. It's only a chair.
This was the moment where I realized that Frasier, the show, wasn't just something special, it was something magnificent. Not only was there an almost seamless transition between tones, but there was so much genuine emotion and character work in both Kelsey Grammer and John Mahoney's performances, and they're not the only ones in the show to accomplish that sort of thing. Frasier then walks into work the next day, completely horrified and ashamed of what he's done. He and Roz have a brief exchange concerning her love life, as they do many times.
Ministers aren't celibate, are they? Not that I don't love a challenge.
Before starting the show, Frasier decides to use his platform to ask for help in finding the chair. And despite the many false flag and prank calls, Frasier discovers the location of his father's chair. It turns out that Martin's chair is being used as a set piece for a school play. Specifically, a middle school production of Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians, or 10 Little Soldiers, or And Then There Were None. There are some other titles for the piece as well, but I leave their happy discovery to you. Frasier comes on set to claim his chair, but Mrs. Warren, the teacher in charge of the production, denies him the request. The main reason being that Martin's chair is the only thing on stage that's actually doing its job. And it's a state of affairs that she is not at all happy with.
Understand, I'm in a very difficult position here.
Difficult? You want difficult? I have a set that's falling apart, a leading man whose voice changed at precisely 3 o'clock this afternoon, and my name is spelled wrong in the program! See what I did there, Pomeroy? That's the kind of anger I need from you in the accusation scene.
Yet Frasier persists and even begs her for the chair back.
Mrs. Warren, I realize that you're in an untenable position here, but I'm speaking to you now from the heart. You see, by putting this chair into the trash, I have wounded my father. I realize it's just a chair to you, but to him it is a treasure trove of life memories that I have thoughtlessly discarded because I didn't like the way it looked in my living room. I have sacrificed heart and soul for form and function. Believe me, I am terribly ashamed of myself for that. This chair is the last best chance to forge any kind of meaningful relationship with the only father I'll ever have.
Despite that eloquence, Mrs. Warren denies him again, only to hear that the boy playing Dr. Armstrong for the play has come down with stomach flu. Frasier decides to take the chair because he knows Dr. Armstrong is way too important to the production to be absent. And he knows this because Dr. Armstrong was the part he played in his school's own production. So Mrs. Warren decides to blackmail Frasier into playing the part again on this stage. And once again, she makes no effort to hide her competitive desperation.
You know, it'd be a real shame if something happened to this chair.
But it's been years. I mean, I hardly can remember any of the lines.
Then you'll fit right in.
But Frasier does get the chair back, and we get an inter-credit scene of Martin once again settling onto his throne. Whew, goodness. This is one of my favorite episodes. And not just because of its humorous moments, or even its dramatic risks, but of how effortlessly both are woven together and provide such a wonderful evolution of the show's characters and our understanding and investment towards them. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, like I said, I can't summarize every episode of every season, but I can summarize the characters and their development as the series progresses, as well as deliver a few highlights on the supporting/recurring cast members, because not including them would be a massive insult to both the show and their contribution to it. Needless to say, there will be many, many spoilers in this section, so buckle up. To start off, my favorite character, Martin Crane. The Crane patriarch, symbol of good principles and authority, as well as permanent grump and moderate cynic, at least at the start.
You know the best thing about getting old? Your hair may turn gray, your joints may stiffen, you may even have to walk with a cane. But people still ask you to help them move.
Martin is not just a veteran of the police service and the Korean War, but he's also a veteran of life in general. He's had an even mix of sad and wonderful moments in his life, but he's persisted due to his own determination, indefatigable sass, and the love that he feels for his family. He lived most of his life being a very capable and even insightful man, but his capability was taken from him after his hip was shattered by a bullet, and all his insights, empathy, and wisdom also take a hit when his wife, that's Frasier and Niles' mom, named Hester, dies. He's also very annoyed at having to live with Frasier, not only because they don't really get along, but because it's another reminder of his decline.
I know how you feel.
No, you don't. You're always paying for me, and I'm never allowed to pay for you. Well, it feels pretty lousy. Well, go ahead, Mr. Big Shot. You pay.
And that last issue is a driving factor for much of Martin's fear and insecurity throughout the series. And even when he and his sons start to warm up to each other, Martin is still really resentful that they're usually in a position where they are taking care of him when he used to be the one who took care of them. Despite this, Martin remains the most discerning and well-disposed of the three Crane boys. He's the first to welcome in Daphne, despite her eccentricities, and hits it off with Roz immediately, whereas the gals often have to put up with a lot of Niles and Frasier's pompousness.
I don't know how you live with him. I don't know how you work with him. Well, I have learned a trick. When he's really bugging me, I ask if he hasn't lost a little weight. Before you know it, he's checking his butt out in the glass of the candy machine.
Really? I tell him he's gained weight. He skips dinner, sulks in his room, and I have the whole evening to myself.
In fact, despite his age, Martin's probably the most active and healthy when it comes to his love life. He's quite the charmer, and knows more than a few ways to win hearts.
All right, we're here with Martin, and we're talking about first dates. Martin, tell me some of the tricks you use to impress women.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Roz, but I really don't know any tricks. I mean, if a woman agrees to go out with me, I'm not there to impress her or to play cool. I'm there because I want to know her. You know, what she thinks, what she likes, so that if I'm lucky enough to get another date, I can plan something that I know she'd like to do. I guess I'm still old-fashioned or something, but I think you should treat a woman like a queen.
And despite some off-color commentary at times, please, you all know you do the same thing, whatever orientation or sex you might be. That's the truth. Regardless, Martin has a habit of being in relationships with very capable and very kind women, even if it's totally by accident. My favorite example of this is with a woman named Cora Winston, who is the mother of one of Frasier's social rivals, Cam Winston. Both Martin and Cora bond over a mutual interest, which is their enjoyment of frustrating and teasing their snobby and know-it-all sons. Eventually, though, this blossoms into a true romance, one which I had really, really hoped would last throughout the entire series, as, well, I thought they were the best couple together. Martin's relationship with his boys is far less stable. He is a very old-fashioned, semi-conservative, and comparatively simple man, in that he knows who he is and what he wants, even if he doesn't quite know how to get it.
But you know, some of the best things in the world are simple, Frasier. All I'm saying is that it's fine to be smart, but you shouldn't have to be proving it all the time, that's all.
He's also sure enough in his own beliefs that he doesn't mind bending more conventional rules that prevent him from acting on those beliefs. This is in pretty stark contrast to Frasier and Niles, both of whom are wannabe Renaissance men, with many varying neuroses and broad ideas on what might make them happy, and who, despite their ostensibly progressive stance, are in fact very unbending in what they think is right.
Ethics are what we do when no one else is looking. For heaven's sake, I learned that from you.
Let me tell you something. One time when I was on the force, I saw a guy shoot somebody. When we caught him, I started to read him his rights, but he slipped out of his cuffs and he swung at me, so I didn't get a chance to finish. 2 months later, I'm on the stand, and his lawyer asked me if I read him his rights in full. Now, if I say no, this guy walks. And this guy's been in and out of jail all his life. He could have read me his rights. So I say, yes, I did. I read him in full. I lied under oath. Now, you might think that I did an unethical thing, but there's not a doubt in my mind that I did the right thing.
This is not helped at all by the fact that the one trait all three men share in equal measure is their own sense of righteousness and even greater stubbornness.
You're right. Why should I expect you to make the effort when I'm no better? Hell, you probably got it from me. You sure didn't get it from your mother, because she was great that way. Anytime she ever met anybody, she would always find something to like about him.
At the series' beginning, both Martin and the two brothers share a negative opinion of each other. Niles and Frasier view Martin as a less intelligent, less cultured, and almost inferior person. And this is largely fueled by petty things, such as the fact that Martin enjoys sports and hot dogs, while Frasier and Niles enjoy opera and fine dining.
We've been having this discussion since we were children. But that suit, well, it's not just the suit, it's his taste in everything. Clothing, films, music. Well, thank goodness we took after Mom.
So how come he didn't acquire any of her sophistication?
Martin, of course, enjoys typical American pastimes and was very disappointed when his sons had no love or talent for such things. But even though he was annoyed by their lack of typical masculine elements, he only became resentful when they started fancying themselves as superior to anybody who did enjoy those elements.
Dad, would one more game kill you? I mean, you're all riled up.
Wait a minute. This isn't about losing, is it? This is about losing to me. That's what's driving you nuts. How can I lose to the old man? I'm much smarter than he is.
I never said that.
No, you didn't have to say. You've thought it all your life.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have, and now you're insulting my intelligence again.
Oh, Dad.
Hey, now listen, what do you think I was doing as a detective all those years? Analyzing clues, devising strategies, always staying 1 or 2 steps ahead of the other guys. Now, does that sound like any game that you know?
But despite this conflict, Martin loves his boys and commands their respect. They're very much his sons still, and are quick to fall in line when he calls them out on their nonsense. And he's also very aware that they preferred their mother to him as a parent. So much so that when it's revealed that Hester had an affair with a family friend, Martin tries to take the blame on himself, saying that he was the one who cheated, until Frasier discovers the truth.
I loved your mother.
So did I.
I know, son. That's why I said I was the one who had the affair. I was just trying to protect her. Hey, Me, you already had problems with.
After going through several personal conflicts and many shared disasters, Martin and the boys develop a very genuine respect and love for one another.
I believe that you each have a lot of work to do to catch up to me in the failed romance department. Divorced twice, left at the altar once.
Well, I haven't exactly been burning things up lately.
Thank you, Dad.
Things with Sherry fizzled. Sleeping Beauty tonight. I think maybe I deserve the booby prize.
Oh, there you go. I'll challenge you. 15 years with Maris. I end up in bed with her lover.
Jeez, I didn't need to hear that.
No, it was an accident. It was pitch dark. I thought he was Maris.
The natural mistake. What taped you off?
The heat from her side of the bed.
By the end of the show, he's not only happy with himself, but also very proud of his boys for the great strides they've made. In fact, it's arguable that the first real relationship that is made on screen is between Martin and Daphne Moon.
What are we worried about? We got our very own Cinderella right under this roof.
Well, that's the last time I tried to get grout up without wearing rubber gloves. I've got so much gunk under my nails, I look like I've been worming a pig.
Daphne, in an endearing, fun, and gloriously weird performance by Jane Leeves, is an English immigrant from Manchester. She's the only girl out of 9 children, and besides being a very optimistic and, at times, rather innocent creature, Daphne bases much of her identity on her supposed psychic gifts.
Jerome, you didn't tell us what line of work you're in.
Oh, wait, let me guess. I'm a bit psychic. Well, let's see. You're some sort of a doctor. An osteopath, perhaps?
No.
That's odd. I can see you hovering over people with broken bones.
Now it's implied, and even demonstrated, that while Daphne is not a precise psychic in the same way that a superhero might be, she does have some kind of gift in that area. Most of her predictions or foresights are skewed perceptions of actual events, or a case of her misinterpreting images that other characters easily see the truth in.
Who the hell is this guy?
He's some hooligan who helped fix Maris's legal problem, and in return I promised him a favor.
But she holds on to the idea of her psychic gifts because her Grammy Moon, but it's their grandma, told her that only moon women were capable of inheriting the psychic gifts, which was a very good way to help her deal with being an only girl in the middle of a bunch of brothers. I am in a similar situation, where most of the family members close to my age or directly related to me are girls, so I understand a bit of Daphne's awkwardness. Most of Daphne's story comes from 3 places: family, social class, and then her relationship with Niles. She has a very strained and difficult relationship with her mother, to the point where Daphne has lied about most parts of her life as well as where she'd hoped to take that life.
Oh, I could just watch the rain all day. Of course, when I was a little girl, I hated the rain. Stuck inside, couldn't go out and play. But my mum would always say, enjoy it while you can. There'll be no water in hell. Of course, that was her answer for everything. Eat your veggies, there'll be no Brussels sprouts in hell. Have a lie down, there'll be no naps in hell.
In fact, even as far as the 9th season of the show, Daphne's mother is somehow under the impression that her daughter is still a virgin, and it takes Daphne a long time to get over her fears and finally take her mom to task. The other source of her family drama comes from her brothers.
This sort of thing used to happen to me brothers all the time. I can get that off with some nail polish remover. Come with me.
So your brothers built a lot of models?
No, actually, I suspect they just sniffed a lot of glue.
That can cause brain damage.
Well then, that confirms it.
Despite being younger than a few of them, she was often in the role of big sister. This did serve her well later in life, though. She's a real city girl who knows how to take care of herself.
Well, this would be an English woman named Daphne.
Oh, yeah, the one that came in with Jimmy.
Right.
But she was over there shooting pool a minute ago. What happened to Jimmy?
He tried to get fresh with her. She threw a hammerlock on him and ran him out of here. That babe can take care of herself.
Which is part of the reason that she and Martin usually get along. They both have a love for the simpler things in life, and share a mutual respect in both their work and personality. On the whole, though, Daphne views her family experiences in a positive light. She's very open about the many weird habits of her family members, and makes it no secret that she shares this strangeness in equal measure. Or, at the very least, she doesn't care much for people who hold it against her. She's also not at all shy about her feminist spirit. She's very quick to praise and be happy with the breaking of certain walls or double standards in social roles, as well as the accomplishments of other very ambitious and capable women.
I must say, I am so proud of you, Roz, being recognised in a male-dominated industry. It's one more step forward for working women. You're a credit to our gender.
Well, thank you, Daphne.
She's not obnoxious, though, and expresses this through her respect for those men who have been in her life as a good influence, and her preference in men who are self-sufficient and courageous in their own right.
You know, after you left, I made the tiniest comment about not liking the poulet foussé, and he sent it back. That snooty wine steward argued with him, but Donnie made a bit of a scene with the owner, and the next thing you knew, our entire meal was on the house. I've never been prouder of him.
Strange, isn't it? It's almost as if capable women and capable men enjoy each other. Her next issue of story is one of social standing. While she is very proper and very classy at times, Daphne takes a lot of pride in her ability to deal with the dirtier and more taxing chores in life if it means doing some good, hence her choice to be a healthcare worker.
Look, Daphne, I realize how hard it is to live in someone else's home.
Yes, it is. But I put up with it because I happen to love this job. All I ever asked for was one room, a little corner I could call me own. I never minded that I was up to my eyeballs in your precious earth tones and your African knickknacks. But now I have to put up with you in there too. And that's one leering love god too many.
Oh, Daphne.
This puts her at some odds with not only Frasier and Niles, but most of their social strata as well. She is viewed as a social inferior by many people, and is sometimes mistaken as Frasier's housekeeper due to her largely self-motivated cleaning and maintenance of the apartment. Combine that with her status as an immigrant in a blue-collar job, and many characters in the show, particularly wealthier women, hold Daphne in a very casual and sometimes cruel contempt.
Here we are. 1 cup of tea, half Darjeeling, half chamomile, skim milk, a packet of sweetener. Oh, and I thought you might enjoy a nice fat-free tea biscuit. Will there be anything else? No, you run along, I'm fine. You sure now? Because I could wait until you finish the biscuit and floss your teeth for you.
But she endures, either due to her own self-confidence or with support from her friends and loved ones. Which comes to her next point of interest, her relationship with Niles.
You're Daphne?
Why, yes, I am.
Well, when Frasier told me he'd hired an English woman, I pictured someone a little more... not quite so. You're Daphne?
The entire cast has an adventurous time when it concerns their love lives, and this is no different from Daphne. She fancies men who are of a more rugged disposition, but prefers guys who at least seem kind, and are perhaps a few IQ points less than she. This changes, though, when she starts a deepening relationship with Niles. Niles himself is smitten with Daphne the first time he meets her, so much so that Frasier is worried that it will cause problems for his marriage with Maris. And Daphne herself is largely clueless about this and only views Niles as a good friend. Niles presents himself as, and often acts as, a social elitist, but he never treats Daphne like that. But despite that obvious familiarity, she doesn't think that someone of Niles' income or social status would ever take an interest in her. But once she finds out that he does love her deeply, she also realizes that she shares this affection.
With me, it's my eyes. I've always fancied sparkling blues instead of dull old brown.
Your eyes?
Your eyes are not dull.
Thank you, Dr. Crane. That's very nice.
Well, they're warm and full of life.
You have beautiful eyes, too.
And this wonderful relationship evolves into a very happy, though also very eventful marriage between the two. And as good as the relationship is for Daphne, it does even more good for Niles.
Hello.
Daphne.
I was wondering if you might be free for a date.
My God, yes.
Now, while Martin Crane is my favorite character in the show, David Hyde Pierce is my favorite actor. And he gives an amazing performance as Niles Crane.
Well, shouldn't I at least prepare a little?
No, listen, your natural spontaneity is your best asset as an actor. What was it the Yale Daily News said about your Tartuffe?
Oh, who remembers? That I had the magnetism of Marlon Brando, the charm of Danny Kaye, and the range of Laurence Olivier.
Is Niles completely insecure about how people view him? Absolutely. But he's also a literal genius, a true romantic, and a good man of good principles.
As for you, you've made it quite clear how you feel about me, so I'd like to share how I feel about you. I'd sooner spend my leisure time in a smelly bus station than spend one moment with you smug, elitist bigwigs with your cliched oriental carpets and your overstuffed chairs. My God, it's like a baby's bottom.
He might also be the funniest part of the show. And it isn't just that David Hyde Pierce is a good actor. He's what I would also call a strategic actor. His line delivery is never out of place, his facial expressions in moment of silence read better than a Shakespearean monologue, and most of all, his physicality is unrivaled. His entire body is akin to an instrument, and he's a joy to watch on screen. And apparently on stage as well, though I can't personally attest to that. His early action is focused on his rivalry with his brother Frasier, his trouble with his marriage and his own general assertiveness, and finally his affection for Daphne. As I said earlier, Niles and Frasier have more love and more envy than most siblings or even most conventional rivalries. Niles often chafes at Frasier's notoriety, and this isn't helped at all by Frasier's constant assumptions that Niles must feel inferior to him due to Frasier being the older brother. But the real drive for Niles' rivalry with Frasier is not his feeling of inferiority to the older brother, but because he feels that he's been cheated by his older brother.
You're jealous of my celebrity?
It's not a tantrum, and I'm not jealous. I'm just fed up! Fed up with being second all the time. You know, I wanted to be a psychiatrist like Mom way before you did, but because you were older, you got there first. You were first to get married. You were first to give Dad the grandchild he always wanted. By the time I get around to doing anything, it's all chewed meat.
You're crying about something that we can't change.
Oh, you wouldn't change it if you could. You love it.
Oh, let it go, Niles.
I can't let it go. My nose is rubbed in it every day. I'm the one on the board of the Psychiatric Association. My research is well respected in academic circles. 4 of my patients have been elected to political office, but it's your big fat face they put on the side of buses.
This rivalry results in so many great moments for the show. The two of them compete for items at auctions to the point where they spend way more money than they should. They compete for dates that they think the other brother likes, even though it's actually the other way around. And they even destroy a 4-star restaurant they own on its opening night.
How much firepower do you suppose is necessary to embed a cherry in an acoustic ceiling tile?
Another question we should have asked ourselves before we entered the exciting world of food service.
By that same token, though, this rivalry is rooted in a deeper understanding of one another. They were each other's first, best, and sometimes only friends in life. And as much as they bring out the worst in each other, they more often than not bring out the best, especially as the series progresses. Frasier is very quick to assuage Niles' doubts in his own abilities, and the younger brother eventually comes around to admitting that, as much as he makes light of Frasier's lifestyle, he also acknowledges that his show brings hope and help to many people.
I know I sometimes make light of your radio show, but the truth is you provide help and hope and comfort to people who need it. I have always envied you that.
Niles is also a bit more partial to Martin than Frasier is, at least in a conversational capacity. He actively avoids having to live with Martin due to his more sensitive and particular nature, which is saying something considering his brother. But because he doesn't have to endure his father on an hourly basis, Niles is also far more receptive to Martin's fatherly care and wisdom whenever trouble strikes. But it's both Frasier and Martin who work together and help Niles towards a more assertive and happy self, particularly in his romantic life.
But how am I ever going to live here?
Well, it's just temporary, Niles. She can't drag this divorce out forever.
You know, Niles, perhaps this place is the price you'll have to pay for your freedom.
Well, it's worth that.
Well, that's the way to look at it, so let's have a toast to that.
Niles, despite his many gifts, is also eager to please, especially if it will help him get something he wants. When we're introduced to him, he's willing to take personal insults from his supposed friends, buy into sketchy business ventures, and resort to all manner of schemes, lackeyism, and personal humiliation to win the approval of influential personages.
Someone better call, because everyone who's anyone is seeing this play. And you know who you are if you're not anyone? You're no one. And I've been someone much too long to start being no one now.
And this is most apparent in his marriage to Maris, and most of his major relationships.
Frasier? I just think she's Maris all over again. She's manipulative. I think you're repeating a terrible pattern.
Well, isn't this neat? We all have our individual reasons for disliking her. Hey, Dad, what's your reason for disliking Mel?
Now, Maris is very much her own character, but how to describe her?
I thought you liked my Maris.
I do. I like her from a distance. You know, the way you like the sun. Maris is like the sun, except without the warmth.
Yes, dear Maris Crane is something special and something brilliant. A singular human creature with so many different psychological afflictions, physical impediments, and egomaniacal tendencies that the writers eventually decided that no actual human actor could ever play her. So despite being a major character throughout most of the series, Maris is never once depicted on screen. The closest we ever get is a shadow through a curtain, but nothing beyond that.
Oh, I don't see her. Oh, wait. I see her coat on the hat rack.
Look closer. Is the hat rack moving?
Oh, my God!
Maris is the typical spoiled rich girl from a blue-blooded family. She believes the whole of the world to be hers to enjoy, and other people function as more of a support item for her own interests as opposed to real individuals with their own. This has given her a very abusive and domineering personality, particularly when it comes to her partners. But, because Niles, for all his faults, is beholden to ideals of not only true love, but also his capacity to carry it out, he remains loyal to Maris and does his best to love her. In fact, despite his clear affection for Daphne since the start of the show, Niles puts aside those feelings when it comes to a choice of remaining loyal to Maris, and those vows he made at their wedding.
When Maris asked me for this favor, do you know what she said? She said, Niles, will you be my Commodore? That's what she used to call her father. Frasier, there was no problem so great that that man couldn't fix it. If I show Maris that I can step into the Commodore's plimsolls, she'll have a whole new respect for me. We can rebuild our marriage on a healthier foundation.
But as a result, he puts up with all manner of abuse in order to keep the woman happy. They even separate by the third season, all because Niles says that she was being inconsiderate when Maris left town for several days without telling anyone where she was, or even calling anybody when she finally got to her destination. His only grievance, in fact, was that he was worried about her, and that it was unfair not to tell him, her husband, where she was. Yet she took this as some kind of personal attack or insult, so much so that she said she'd only take him back if Niles took the blame for the entire mess.
Dr. Crane.
Yes, Martha?
Missy Crane give me message for you. If you say it's all your fault, you no have to leave.
But with some help from Martin and Frasier, Niles gets both the confidence to stand up for himself and the self-esteem to realize that he should look for someone who is as much of a giver as he is. And it isn't easy for him. Despite his mistreatment by Maris, Niles does his very best to salvage what little of their marriage he can, on multiple occasions. Even when they're at their worst point, but not divorced, he can't bring himself to sleep with a perfectly willing date unless it's an accepted part of he and Maris' separation. Maris, of course, says she's not okay with that, and while Niles is willing to accept that, we learn later that her wishes are motivated more by a need to control, as opposed to any real affection for Niles. Because she cheats on Niles with the very doctor who is supposed to be guiding them through couples counseling.
Thanks to our sessions, Maris has been unafraid to show me the real woman inside.
Damn you! I trusted you because you were supposed to be helping us. You betrayed my confidence and my friendship, and you seduced my wife.
Wow. There's a lot of new issues here, aren't there? Think maybe we should kick it up to 3 sessions a week?
And that last bit is the final straw for Niles, and he commits fully to a divorce. There's a lot more that happens after that as far as Maris is concerned, but Niles does finally win his independence, and is hopeful for the chance at finally beginning a relationship with Daphne, only for her to go into another relationship that blossoms into an engagement. And Niles does his best to move past this, and while he is in fact better off than he used to be, he does eventually fall into a relationship with one Mel Karnofsky, a plastic surgeon who is just as manipulative and controlling as Maris was. Though, to her credit, Mel seems to have an actual reason for loving Niles as opposed to needing a punching bag.
I'm crazy about him. The way he laughs, the way he gets that little glint in his eye when he's about to say something clever. But you know what I love the most? It's like there are all these things that he could be if he could just trust someone enough to help him unlock it all. And if I could be that person, you know, that safe person in his life, well, the more I know him, the more I know that's all I want to be.
But she's still very shallow and snobby and elitist, which might be part of the reason why Niles falls for her in the first place.
Frasier at least asked if you were interested.
Now that you mention it, no, he didn't.
Good. And you don't resent it. Well, you see, that's why I love you, because most people would. I would. Bitterly. But then I'm not you, and I don't know what's best for you, and now the jacket's wrong.
But once Daphne and Niles realize that their affection for one another is mutual, they go through the messy process of breaking their previous relationships. Neither of their former partners let the couple go easily, but after some doing, Niles and Daphne are finally able to get married. And is it a perfect relationship? No. Is it a happily ever after? Absolutely.
I want to marry you now.
As in, now?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because you'd do anything, even put up with my insane family to make me happy. Because you travel halfway around the world to make my dreams come true, even the impossible ones. And because I can't spend one more second without being your wife, Niles Crane.
But I thought you always wanted a big wedding.
You want to make my dreams come true. This is my dream.
There are all sorts of insecurities and unforeseen circumstances that plague them, but they power through and grow. There's frustration and annoyance and some petty misunderstandings, but there is never a hint of hatred or disrespect. So it's as good a love story as you'll get. And at the end of his journey, Niles remains quite snobby, but he's also wiser, braver, and happier. The improvement is so drastic, in fact, that people who he's had ongoing feuds with throughout the series reconcile with him and become very loyal and protective friends. and the most prominent of these exchanges is with Roz Doyle.
Roz, are you trying to avoid me?
Well, can you blame me? I mean, it took you nearly a year just to learn my name, and every time we sit together, you have some kind of snide remark to make.
Name one.
Well, last week you told me my bedroom was easier to get into than a community college.
I was hoping that would be the one you'd name.
Roz, in a very witty and human performance by Perry Gilpin, is Frasier's producer on his radio program. She's savvy to most intrigues and gossip in the workplace. She's also a great practical foil to Frasier's more pompous tendencies. And she has a very active love life, which is one of the recurring jokes in the series.
You think with all your dozens and dozens of men, you could at least leave one for me?
Dozens? Did you tell her that?
Well, forgive me for keeping track.
That last point is not a matter of her being codependent, but her love life and her career are the driving points for her character. It's not explored in the same way that the other characters' relationships are, but we get the impression that Roz's attitudes about love are rooted in her home life.
So, Mom, let me ask you something. How long did you know Dad before you told him you loved him? Mom? Mom? Mom, you've been divorced 15 years. Let it go.
She has a great deal of love and respect for her mother, whose career and skill in the field of law led her to become the Attorney General for Wisconsin. The father, who Roz speaks of in a vaguely fond manner, left the two of them at some point. This is implied to have been a contributing factor both to Roz's focus on her career, to be like her mother, as well as her more active and casual opinions on romance. It's not only that Roz wants to be the dominant one in the relationship, but she also specifically goes for men who, while usually quite handsome, are also a few steps short of her as far as character and brains are concerned.
I mean, how long can I go on chasing these hunky 25-year-olds that are all looks and no substance?
Exactly, Roz.
No, I'm serious. I'm asking, how long? 3, 4 years?
Which, ideally, means that she won't get hurt like with what happened with her father and mother. This all changes, though, when she becomes a mother and gives birth to a daughter named Alice. The father of her little girl is revealed to be a younger, but also very kind man. And rather than demand things like alimony or what have you, Roz tells the kid, the comparative kid, to live his own life, as she can take care of herself.
I hope that you can understand why I can't possibly marry you. When I get married, it's going to be to someone I love. And someone who loves me. And someone who can legally drink champagne at my wedding.
Becoming a mother, as you probably expect, is a massive transition for Roz. She's scared at first, and while she is determined to make it on her own, and in a lot of ways does, she still needs help from her friends. She hits it off with Martin very quickly, so much so that Martin thinks Frasier ought to try going out with her.
Hey, I really like your friend Roz. Nice gal. Why don't you ask her out? She's great looking, and she can really hold her liquor.
And both the old police officer and the young career woman share a few interests, so much so that Roz usually trusts him to babysit Alice. Roz and Daphne also quickly form a close and sisterly bond, with all the love and petty conflicts that come with it. They compete over men, they get annoyed with choices concerning fashion, and often clash when something in the larger family dynamic goes wrong and there's no one else around. But Daphne also respects Roz for her very successful career, her personal bravery, and her loyalty when it comes to friends and loved ones. Roz also loves Daphne on account of the English psychic's kind nature, optimistic weirdness, and generally a healthier outlook on life.
I'm pretty good at finding the positive in things. I mean, look at what happened to me tonight. I could say, here I've worked for someone for 5 years, and he forgot my anniversary and bought me a worthless piece of blue glass. But I'd rather say he gave me a nice pair of earrings just because he thought I'd like them. Which is really rather sweet when you think about it.
Yeah, well, Frasier will be relieved to hear that.
Oh, I'm not going to tell him.
As mentioned before, though, one of the more far-reaching changes comes with her relationship with Niles. Niles, at the beginning of the series, is still very much a pretentious and mildly asinine individual. But the two of them grow on each other when they realize their equal penchant for witty insults and their enjoyment of mocking Frasier.
Oh my God.
She was cute, but she's not an oh my God.
No. Not that oh my God. Oh my God, I slept with that woman 3 months ago.
You slept with her?
Yes.
On what desert island with no hope of rescue was this?
Yet none of this would have been anywhere near as strong without her daughter Alice. Roz, for all her cavalier attitudes towards romance, is a very loving and devoted mother. So much so that the experience shifts her attitude concerning her love life, and she tries to pursue a real relationship a few times in the series. And while they don't pan out, we can at least determine that Roz is in fact doing her best to make them work, and is hoping for a more consistent and supportive life. Her career, though, is a far more ascendant matter. Roz is very tenacious when it comes to her job, and can even be ruthless when it comes to promotions, pay raises, or broadcasting awards.
If we win, can't we just, not accept it?
Listen, Frasier, I have waited 10 years to get this award, and if I have to crawl over Fletcher Gray's mother to get it, I'll do it.
Roz, I've never seen you like this before.
It isn't pretty, is it?
Now, she doesn't go out of her way to hurt any of her colleagues, but she still has a very powerful and natural competitive nature, and this works out for her, because despite all the trials and annoyances she faces throughout her career, and quite a bit of mocking and disrespect from her family, Roz becomes general manager of KACL. It is a well-deserved promotion, and it's most definitely a validation of all her struggles and efforts. This is very much in concert with her own relationship with Frasier. The two of them develop a rapport, and throughout the series, we have both Roz and Frasier having each other's backs when the other is in trouble. They mourn their respective love lives, and they even give each other whatever advice the other might need to push forward into something good.
Her husband's a good friend of mine. Oh, how can I tell him? He'll be crushed.
Well, you don't tell the person being cheated on. You confront the person who's doing the cheating. Didn't they teach you anything at Harvard?
I can't do that.
Oh, it's easy, Frasier. You just tell her you know she'd been mattress surfing with some other guy, and if she doesn't knock it off, you'll tell her husband.
Frasier's usually hopeful attitude often helps Roz to work out of her more depressed moods throughout the series, and his experience as a parent even helps her to overcome her very understandable fears towards the same. At the same time, Roz's more grounded and pragmatic view on the world often gets Frasier out of trouble when he says or does something that gets him in, trouble. And before you ask, no. Despite much hope from the fan base, Roz and Frasier do not get together or marry or what have you, much to my own annoyance. Another mention of the main cast is Dan Butler as Bob Bulldog Briscoe, a colleague of Frasier's at KACL who is pretty much his polar opposite.
I caught the first hour of your show today. Yeah. If that chick whining about sexual harassment called my show, I'd say, listen, doll, you don't want people snapping your bra. Don't wear one.
He's a very popular sportscaster who still acts like the big man on campus, which is odd considering he's actually very compact. Now, Bulldog tomcats around with women, he's something of a coward at heart, and he's also a bit of an idiot, and that makes him really fun to watch.
He used to be unstoppable. 20 points a game, easy. Now he's in the tank. Just what I need on my show, a loser. Oh, look, there he is now. What an overpaid, worthless piece of... Hey, Reggie, my man!
He's loud, he's irrational, and very crude, and very charming about it. It's even a little sad, because this was a really good role, and I haven't seen Dan Butler around in very much outside of this show, and a minor part in Crazy Stupid Love. Now, throughout the first half of the series, Bulldog functions as a rival to Frasier around the office, and usually makes it his personal business to annoy the hell out of the high-minded psychiatrist.
There's nothing I can do to appeal to your sense of decency.
Hey, I have no sense of decency. That way my other senses are enhanced.
He's also very much in love with Roz, and while at first it seems like just another of his shallow obsessions, we do find out that he does love her in a genuine, albeit abrasive fashion. He's a good sitter for Alice, he's very dedicated to the bit whenever he tries to put on a date night for Roz. Even when he's fired from his radio gig and becomes a pizza delivery man, Bulldog holds out hope of having a real relationship with her.
All right, last spring, when we were together, it was great. And I didn't know how to handle it, so I ran away. But when I saw you again, I figured if I could keep the competition out of the way, then maybe you and I don't know, we could be a couple.
Us?
I think I'm in love with you.
Now, he's only credited as a main cast member for 2 seasons, but his reign is definitely a good one. And as much as the show's main cast is the primary draw for it, they are perfectly edged out by the supporting cast, and what a glorious ensemble they are. Hell, even the baristas at Frasier's coffee hut, Cafe Nervosa, are memorable characters throughout the entire show.
Can I help you, sir?
Oh, yes. What are your specials today?
Kenyan blend.
No. Still poaching elephants over there. Got something else?
Dark roast Brazilian.
Not until they do something about the loss of our rainforests.
Salvadoran.
No, I've never forgiven them for their human rights violations.
Well, then we're down to the Hawaiian Kona blend. Or have they slaughtered too many macadamia nuts?
To start out, we have Noel Shempsky, the nerdy, awkward, and kind of vicious tech support for the station.
Dr. Crane, I can see that you're concerned about my negotiating skills, but don't be. I have a secret weapon. I can faint at will. Check it out.
He has a massive crush on Roz, which was unfortunately started by her when she decided she wanted to try something a little different in her dating life. It's a good impulse, but bad execution. For instance, Noel is such a huge Star Trek fan that he has a restraining order put on him by William Shatner. And when Frasier fails to get him an autograph by Scott Bakula, and then proceeds to insult Star Trek, Noel replaces the Hebrew phrases in his bat mitzvah speech, I forgot to mention that Frasier's son is Jewish, with Klingon.
Oh, yes, you will see me tomorrow. And by the rings of Septaris 5, you will pay, Dr. Crane. Hi, Kenny, will pay.
There's also Gil Chesterton, restaurant critic, not at all well-closeted gay man, and a joy to watch whenever he's on screen.
Bonnie Weems, the auto lady, just asked me to another one of her wretched dinner parties. Well, I'm planning on saying that you and I have ballet tickets that night, so do back me up.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Have you any idea how vile her food is? The local raccoons have posted warning signs on her trash bin.
So, see, Shorty invited me and I told her I was driving my father to his army reunion at Rattlesnake Ridge.
Oh, very clever. Well, I'd use it myself, only I killed my father off to escape her Labor Day clambake.
He has this strange mix of class, charm, and sliminess that you just can't take your eyes off of. He might also be the only person in the show who's more of a snob than Frasier and Niles, but he's also savvier to most of the office nonsense, and is very defensive when it comes to his area of expertise.
If we don't back this strike, they may lose their jobs. They're powerless without our support.
Frasier, old man, why do they need raises? We're talking about people who eat corn dogs and nachos.
That statement is appallingly elitist.
Well, thank you, Mr. Everyday People.
At one point, Frasier, without any malicious intent, hijacks a piece of Gil's show to play a segment called The Wine Corner. and Gil is justifiably furious.
Normally at this time I'd be doing my final segment on food for the calorie conscious. All things light and edible. But apparently health is going to take a back seat to the random musings of a radio psychiatrist on wine. So without further ado, I give you the Wine Corner with your host, Dr. Frasier Crane.
After that, we have Kenny Daly, who arrives in the latter part of Season 5 and remains a constant fixture of the series until the very last season.
Hey, there's my Renaissance man.
Ah, Kenny.
If you can't solve their problems with therapy, solve them with drinking.
Yes, well, let's just keep that out of the ads, shall we?
Too late.
Kenny is ostensibly the manager of the station and supposed to be Frasier and Roz's boss. And while he's perfectly adept at keeping the station running, he isn't very good at asserting his authority over other people. So much so that Frasier and Roz often walk over him when they need something in regards to the station.
You better come up with something here. Sorry to be a hard ass. It's the part of my job I hate the most, but I need this thing on my desk Monday-ish. You know.
Kenny's also a bit of an oaf. I wouldn't call him an idiot, but he makes a lot of trouble for himself, particularly when it comes to his personal life.
I stopped by a bar last night to watch the game, and I started talking to this woman, Janice. She was so beautiful, and she had this great laugh, and she smelled good. And for some crazy reason, she liked me too. She's waiting for me right now at Chez Henri. I've never done anything like this before. I'm a married man with kids, and I have a date!
And Frasier is often called upon to help him in that regard. Despite these annoyances, Kenny remains a very nice person throughout the series. Now, Frederick, Frasier's son from Lilith, is a main fixture as far as the supporting cast is concerned. He's one of the few sources of real joy in Frasier's life, and the neurotic doctor does everything he can to be a good father to the boy. But because Frasier lives a fair distance away from him, he isn't present for much of Freddy's growth. And Freddy does grow and change, particularly when he becomes a teenager. And Frasier's idealization of his son is eventually broken in a healthy way, because it's at a point when both he and his son start bonding over the very real joys, pains, and imperfections that come with life.
What did you do?
Well, I saw a woman standing in the rain, and I gave her a ride.
You can go to jail for that.
Well, it depends on the sort of woman. You see, this particular woman was a prostitute. But I didn't know that until it was too late.
A prostitute?
Oh, God. How can I explain this? A prostitute is someone who engages in sexual relations with other people for money.
Dad, I'm 11. I know what a prostitute is.
Above all the supporting cast stand two individuals. The first is Lilith Sternin in an iconic performance by Bebe Neuwirth.
Congratulations, Frasier, you've done it again. You've led another unsuspecting innocent down one of your dark, dead-end Freudian hallways.
She, like Frasier, is a character from Cheers and remains very much the same in terms of general personality. She is just as arrogant as Frasier and makes no attempt to hide her blunter and even insulting opinions towards others. At least at first. In Frasier the show, Lilith goes through a lot of hurdles in her life.
I'm mad at me. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I've just been so lonely over the last year. When I found your letter, it was like a life preserver. I'm raising a child alone. I'm scared. I always thought of myself as a strong and independent person, but the truth is I'm afraid. I guess that's why I convinced myself that I was still in love with you.
And she has about as rough of a love life as he does.
Brian was looking for someone a bit more feminine. And he found him. Stan Jablonski, that little hussy.
But with all that drama comes a strong sense of growth and maturity. Lilith still has her insecurities, her faults, and all the other human things that dog us, but she's also more aware of them, and has her priorities grounded in both her career and the raising of her son. I'd even argue that she's in a much better state of mind than Frasier is by the end of the series.
Lilith, do you think I know how to be happy?
Of course you do. You just like a challenge. You've never been one to take the easy road.
Well, seems I've skidded right off the road this time and into a ditch.
But even Lilith is a distant second to one particular creature. A show stealer, master manipulator, and devilishly charming woman without any morals or empathy, and yet still the best part of whatever episode she's in.
Now, Bibi, tell me, what is so wonderful about smoking?
Everything. I like the way a fresh, firm pack feels in my hand. I like peeling away that little piece of cellophane and seeing a twinkle in the light. I like coaxing that first sweet cylinder out of its hiding place and bringing it slowly up to my lips. Striking a match, watching it burst into a perfect little flame, and knowing that soon that flame will be inside me. I love the first puff, pulling it into my lungs, little fingers of smoke filling me, caressing me, feeling that warmth penetrate deeper and deeper, till I think I'm going to burst, then whoosh. Watching it flow out of me in a lovely, sinuous cloud. No two ever quite the same.
Yes, Bibi Glazer, miraculously played by Harriet Sansom Harris, is Frasier's agent throughout the majority of his career. She is a devious veteran of the industry, has probably committed murder at some point in her life, and nobody cares, because she's just so amazing on screen. In fact, I'm not entirely certain if there's another character like her. The cliché of "you love to hate them" is used to reference morally destructive characters all the time. But in Bibi's case, most people just love her.
There'll be other men. It may take time, but you'll get over me.
Well, somebody certainly thinks well of himself.
What?
Darling, this isn't about us. It's just a little bargaining tactic. I threatened to jump. You talked me down. Major coverage. Bang! Your price goes up 20%. My life is meaningless!
You can't help but laugh or cheer or be amazed when she pulls off some amazing feat of public relations or business acumen or social puppetry, because they usually work. And there's this voice in the back of your head that tells you that quite a few of these maneuvers she does might work in the real world. But the real kicker is the character herself. There is this energized, sultry, and completely manic energy within every line and scene that Bibi is in.
If it's a raucous political debate you want, meet newlyweds Hank and Hannah Finch.
Okay.
He's a right-wing Baptist preacher. She's a fun-loving bisexual. Conflicts? You bet. Have you ever seen such talent? God, they're pathetic.
And even though everyone knows that she's a monster, they tolerate her presence. One, because she's the best agent that any media worker in Seattle could ever get, and two, they're scared of her.
What kind of a woman are you? You seduced me. You lied to me. You nearly got me killed. You've shamelessly manipulated not only me, but this station, the news media, and the entire city of Seattle. What do you have to say for yourself?
Aren't you glad I'm on your side?
Yes, I suppose I am.
Frasier even fires her at one point, as Roz demands it as payback for when Bibi destroys her shot at a radio show of her own. Only for Roz herself to take Bibi on as her own agent, when the thought of making a very prosperous career beckons.
How about you? You want an agent? You mean it?
Roz!
I never had an agent. It's not like she worships the devil.
Well, she doesn't have to. He worships her!
And despite his moral reservations concerning Bibi's methods, Frasier does eventually take her back, because she's just that good.
Now it's time we both drop the masks. You need me, and I want you back. Just sign this contract. I'll cut you a deal that'll make Roz's look like lunch money.
Isn't there a zebra carcass somewhere you should be hovering over?
You want to see a carcass, chum? Look in the mirror. Look what you've let that man do to you. Your face is riddled with bird bites. Your name's a punchline, and your career is 5 minutes from over, and he's only been your agent for 3 days.
And even beyond the supporting cast, there are so many guest appearances and guest voices on the show that I couldn't possibly name them all. We get Nathan Lane, Helen Mirren, Mel Brooks, Linda Hamilton, Gary Sinise, and so many more, good God. Even James Earl Jones himself makes a brief appearance.
I didn't drop your ashtray. I dropped the mask. And the nose broke off. And I feel just terrible.
Well, that's why you needed my denture adhesive.
Yes?
Well, usually it works pretty well. I must have dropped that mask 10 times. I am blind, you know.
And yet, as magnificent as he always is, the best guest appearance goes to famed actor Derek Jacobi, who plays what might be the ultimate parody of any Shakespearean actor, as he demonstrates his complete mastery of the bard by doing his absolute best to be as absolutely bad as possible.
I die, Horatio. The potent poison quite o'ercrows my spirit. I cannot live to hear the news from England, but I do prophesy the election lights on Fortinbras. He has my dying voice. The rest is silent.
There is no assembly of characters and performances quite like the show Frasier. And truly, it is them, their banter, their relationships, and all the drama among them that keep the audiences invested. But if you've been paying attention, you might have noted a conspicuous absence among my character summaries, that being the show's star, Frasier himself.
Spend the whole damn week ministering to the troubled and the neurotic and sometimes just plain goofy. Then I hang up my earphones, and it doesn't end there. Out on the street, at the cafe, even in this building, more people come up for help. More problems. I suppose they just think it's okay. It's what I do. But every time I try to help them, it costs me a little piece of myself. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Till I end up feeling like a zebra carcass on the Serengeti surrounded by burping vultures.
Part of this was by design. All of the characters derive their place in the show from him in some way. Niles is his brother, Martin is his father, Roz is his producer, and on the list goes. But I also left him at the end for a very specific reason. Because despite the show being about him, I'd argue that he undergoes the least constructive change out of all the characters, and is the only one of the main cast to be left with his future somewhat vague and uncertain.
Thank you for honoring my life. Just wish I knew what to do with the rest of it.
I've taken my time discussing his traits as they affect the other characters, so if you recognize any repeat terms, there's no avoiding that. Frasier is completely self-absorbed to the point of near delusion, And this trait of his is so dominant that it's the primary cause of, well, all of his troubles, particularly when it comes to his love life.
This is yet another example of your complete self-absorption, which is the reason we could not stay together in the first place.
I have a right to... Why am I defending myself?
Frasier is, for lack of a better term, an Ivy League brat. There are several moments where Frasier's enjoyment of some of the finer things in life are rooted in the fact that they are simply considered fine things in life.
Dad, you don't understand. You see, this isn't just about the play. This is literally our last opportunity to see one of the finest actors of our time.
You just want to go because all your snobby friends are going and you don't want to feel left out.
What we want is to sit at a theater and share a transcendent experience
that nobody else could get tickets to.
Of course, that's a transcendent part.
We even find out that his motive for being a psychiatrist is a self-deception. Frasier thought that his motive for being a therapist was completely benevolent, only for him to find out later that he got into psychiatry as a defense mechanism. Like many a nerdy kid, Frasier was bullied in school, and he sought advice and comfort from his mother, who was idolized by both Frasier and Niles as the best in their profession.
What was the first thing you can remember us competing over?
Have to be Mom. We're always jockeying for her time and attention.
Now, Mom gave him the old bully only hates you because he doesn't like himself speech, and that was enough to motivate Frasier to study psychiatry. It was a way for him to understand people and a world that scared him, and it was done in such a way that he could view all of them in an objective and therefore distant manner.
How's your practice?
I don't have a practice, I have a radio show.
Distance. Any children?
Yes, I have a wonderful son with whom I'm very close.
You live with him?
He lives in Boston.
Distance. With your wife?
My ex-wife. Yes, I know. Distance.
It was a way of empowering himself in comparison to everything else around him, which only fueled whatever self-aggrandizing qualities he might have already been born with. Yet, that also gets to his real qualities. He is empathetic, he enjoys making people happy and being happy with them, and he wants to love and be loved, to hold and be held.
This is Dr. Frasier Crane, reminding everyone that life is too short to dwell on every bump in the road. Try to take pleasure in the simple things. In short, eat a cookie.
As arrogant as Frasier is, and as morally superior as he can get, he's only that way because he holds himself to that exact standard and hopes to see the same in others.
You're not lazy. What you are is afraid. There are any number of things you could do in the legitimate world. You're just afraid to try one of them and fail at it.
You really think I can change?
Yes. I believe everyone can change because I believe in the basic goodness of people.
He desperately wants to be happy, and in many ways he wants everyone else to have the same. There are many times in the series where he puts his own interests aside to do something that he knows is right. And while he does slip up or fail at times, usually due to all the reasons and arrogances I mentioned earlier, he is, on the whole, a very dutiful moralist. It is this exact attitude that gets in the way of Frasier's happiness at times. It is almost impossible for him to accept the possibility of a person being rotten to their core or being without scruples. And so he gets hurt easily when people with those temperaments get their way or are completely fine with being horrible people.
Dad? I am not leaving until I know that you feel some remorse for what you've done.
Wow, this is really bugging you, isn't it?
Yes!
Well, okay, all right. The truth is I feel bad. I feel real bad.
You feel nothing!
And despite all his ego and his hang-ups, Frasier's primary concern is with being a good son, a good brother, a good father, and a good man in general.
She found out how Niles has felt about her all these years.
You're kidding. How'd she find out?
That's not important right now, Dad. The problem is that she told me that she thinks she might have the same feelings for him.
Oh, jeez.
Of course, then Niles shows up married. Now she says it's just jitters.
Well, you can't tell Niles all this. He says he's happy with Mel.
She says she's happy with Donnie. But I'm not sure I believe either one of them.
Just remember, Frasier, there are 2 marriages on the line here. So before you get involved, you better make damn sure you know what you're doing.
Frasier is also a polite and even friendly person on the whole. He's open to trying new experiences and goes out of his way to prove that he can be approachable, even if it fails in spectacular fashion. And he does this because at the end of the day, Frasier likes people. Though this attitude ebbs and flows as the series progresses.
Come on, Frasier, this isn't going to do any good. You want to make an impression on him? Get tough. You go right down there and let the air out of his tires.
Oh, I wouldn't do something like that.
Why? It's just inconveniencing him like he inconvenienced you.
Well, listen, the world has become uncivilized enough without me stooping to that level.
And this duel between egomania and altruism translates into his romantic life. On the whole, many of Frasier's dating failures are rooted in his ego or a huge misunderstanding concerning whoever he's dating. The man's falsely accused his dates of parental abuse. He's thought that they were charging him extra for legal representation, even though they were in fact giving him a discount rate. And he's even been guilty of juggling multiple relationships.
I suppose you've come over here to gloat because a woman came on to you.
Oh, no, hardly. I wouldn't do that sort of thing. Come over to gloat because 2 women came on to me. 2? My God, I've never had a night like this in my entire life. I'm a babe magnet. I'm catnip.
Now, to be fair, this wasn't in a malicious way, and it was more a question of indecision. If you've ever been asked out by different people in the same breath of time, or you've asked someone out, had them be silent, and then move on to someone else, only to have the previous person say they're interested at the worst time possible, then you might know something about Frasier's situation. At that same time, though, he's very dedicated to the idea of having a stable and loving relationship. He wants a family. So much so that when he meets women who he thinks he can't be without, they can easily abuse him, or think that there's no way he could be hurt by what they do. He's been left at the altar by Diane, been cheated on during his marriage to Lilith, and the list goes on.
What you are feeling is that this woman has reached into your chest, plucked out your heart, and thrown it to her hellhounds for a chew toy. And it's not the last time either, because that's what this woman is. She is the devil. There's no use running away from her, because no matter how far you go, no matter how many years you let pass, you will never be completely out of reach of those bony fingers. So drink hearty, Franklin, and laugh, because you have made a pact with Beelzebub, and her name is Marianne!
There's a point in a lot of these relationships where his partners realize that he was too good for them. Even Lilith feels this to a degree. But what makes it all sad is that Lilith and even Diane, self-absorbed as that particular creature was, are able to move on. Yes, by the end of the series, Frasier is happier with his family, he's made new friends, and has good prospects for his career, but he still suffers from the same flaws that have plagued him throughout his entire life, and he longs for something like true love. And when he isn't trying to puff out his chest and just acts as he would on any given day, Frasier is perfectly capable of earning and keeping a woman's attention.
After today, I can't see that any woman would even want to go out with me.
I think I would.
Still, Frasier looks on, because he's a big believer in the one.
Love is an awesome force. It can make us do things we never imagined were possible. For you see, we don't actually choose love. It chooses us.
The show even ends with Frasier packing up and chasing someone that he thinks may fit the bill. But we know that he's done this before, and that it's something that fails him. At the end of the day, though, Frasier is a very flawed and very wonderful human being, and he's a worthy protagonist among all the other exquisite characters in a criminally underrated and yet still timeless performance by Kelsey Grammer in what is the greatest sitcom ever made. And speaking of ends, we are at the end of this review. If you've never seen Frasier before, I hope you'll give it a chance, and if you're an old devotee, I hope I've captured just enough of its quality to warm your heart a bit. Now, the next episode of Retrospective Rant's 90s hit series will also be our first anime review. This will be a classic anime that's inspired some of the best writers and showrunners in the West, and explores strange new worlds alongside the most badass and uniquely stylish protagonist anime has ever had, with probably one of the few English dubs that a lot of people love. And while I'm perfectly aware that every anime commenter has reviewed this show at some point in their career, I figured I might as well start off with it. Hell, it'd be a struggle against destiny itself if I didn't. Thank you all so much for listening, and have a good one.